Hey, I'm the How-To Dad, and this is my utility trailer, mobile ski chalet, and stealth camper. Don't believe me? Check this out!
I have drawn up plans for this system, but I haven't made them available on the website. If this is something you think you'd be interested in, go ahead down in the comments and just let me know. Also, if you think there's a way that I can improve this, please let me know. I'm always open to suggestions.
Hey, so what I tell you, look at this. I got a couch, I got a couple of benches, place to sit down and have some lunch, some dinner. This converts into a bed, this turns into a bed, it sleeps 4. We've got running water, we've got heat, we've got a fridge, we've got tons of space. Nobody can tell that you're in here. It looks like just some regular utility trailer. I put up the light shade and there's no way you can tell there's people sleeping in here. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how I built this. If you remember from a previous video, I actually already have a mobile ski chalet and a stealth camper. So why did I build another one? Basically, a buddy of mine and I, over a couple of beers, were talking about the skyrocketing prices of camper trailers. I also wanted something that had a little bit more space and, you know, something my wife would actually get in and enjoy with me, and I could fit my entire family. There were a couple of criteria that we're coming up with. One, it needed to be comfortable, so heat and running water would be nice. We wanted it to be stealth, so we could camp anywhere and nobody would know that we're in there. And the camper system itself needed to be easily put in and taken out of the trailer. And most of all, it needed to be easy to store, which is how we came up with the idea of nesting all the boxes together. So you can store this entire system either in the front of the trailer or anywhere in the trailer, or you can shove it in the corner of your garage and you get your utility trailer back. I can set this thing up from completely empty to the way it is now, all bolted down, ready to go in about 10 minutes. It takes a little less time to take it apart. It probably takes as much time to set up a tent as it does to set up this entire utility trailer with beds, tables, fridge, water. We even have a camping stove that we pull out and cook in here. This thing is awesome. So let's head into the garage and I'll show you how I built this. All right, so as you can tell, I'm not in my normal shop. My family and I are on a bit of an adventure, sort of an extended adventure. And it gives me an opportunity to show you that, you know, you don't need, $5,000 worth of tools or a $5,000 table saw to make the things that you want to make. So I've got a couple of sawhorses that I found in the yard here, and I've got my skill saw, my table saw, and jigsaw. And that should be enough to do all this with my driver and some other things. So I'm just gonna get to laying out the cuts, using a pencil and then figuring out how I'm going to cut everything. All right, so I got all my cuts laid out here. I've got them labeled so I know what is what. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my skill saw. So I'm going to sort of break down the sheet using the skill saw, and then for the more important cuts, I'm going to do that over on the table saw just to be a little bit more accurate. And I've got a better blade over on the table saw as well. So there's 7 sheets of plywood that I've got to cut up. So this is just the first one. Yeah, here we go. Having this miter gauge on the table saw is nice, but it would actually be a lot nicer if I had my sliding compound miter saw. Anyway, everything's coming together. The angles are a bit funny, and I've left all the beveled cuts, so the angles where different corners come together. I've left those to the end. Now, I've taken time and care to make sure that I keep all the pieces that are like together, so all the small bench and the regular and the split cabinet, all those pieces are put off to the side and kept together. Just makes it easier for later, because I think there's like 75 different pieces, and they're all pretty similar in size and length, so it's pretty easy to get them all messed up. So I've marked and kept them all separate. It's really hard coming from a really well set up workshop to this place, but I'm making the best of it, and it really makes me appreciate the time and effort that I've put into setting up my shop. So all right, so just when I thought I was pretty much done with all the crazy cuts, I found these 2 pieces for the cabinet in the back here, and they've got basically 156.5, 157.5 degree cut. So it's like a 45 and another 22.5. And I couldn't figure out how to do it, so I just, made this this crazy jig. So basically what happens is this is at 45, and then I set the blade to 22.5, and then I cut that through. Kids, don't try this at home. Right, well that didn't work out as planned at all. You can see I had a pretty big curve here. It started to cut more when I got to the middle than it did on the edges. I set the back of the cabinet so no one's really gonna see it. I guess I'll have to
try again better for the next one.
All right, so the next piece that I've got cut is actually quite a bit longer. The jig wasn't big enough, so I just kind of extended this, and this is a double. Kids, don't try this at home. All right, I got 10 fingers when I start. Hopefully this joke ages well, like holy smokes. All right, so I got all my cuts done, and now I'm gonna start doing some dry fitting and assembly, and I'm gonna do that because I don't really have a really good working station, so I'm just gonna go over to this not so trusty and very dusty spot and try to make the best of it. But yeah, I really miss my shop.
I used corner braces for the 90-degree corners. They're actually really great because not only do they hold everything together, but they keep things from rocking side to side. If you had a pocket hole jig, I think that would be awesome here.
All right, so Untrusty Dusty over there has definitely lived up to its name. Not flat at all, so I've basically had to resort to using an offcut as a tabletop on my table saw, which works really well, but now when I need to make an adjusting cut, like just a short little, easy cut, well, I gotta take everything off, take off the tabletop, raise the blade, make the cut, put everything back on, and get back to where I left off. This works, there's nothing wrong with this, it was a lot easier back in my other shop. Did I mention I missed my other shop? I've been struggling a little bit with how to secure the corners, especially with these funny angles. Like this one's a 29-degree angle, and I tried bending the angle brackets, and I tried face nailing. I was thinking about even just throwing screws in, but then I remembered the wooden skewer trick. This is really cool. So basically all you do is just go and you get your regular wooden, bamboo skewers that you'd use for barbecuing. You drill a 1/8 inch hole, fill it with glue, jam the skewer in there, hold it for like a couple of seconds. It absorbs the glue, expands, and man, does it ever make a solid joint. All right, so I did a little test fit, and surprise, surprise, actually everything fits together. It went together pretty smoothly. The big issue is there's nothing for me to grab onto. Like I find that my hands are slipping off the boxes. I think what I've come up with is I'm going to make a jig for a set of handles. So I'm just gonna cut the handles out the sides of each piece. The lower split cabinet, I'm actually gonna put the handle in the top so that I can lift it from above. And I think that's going to solve a lot of my issues. I think this is probably the simplest and maybe most elegant solution that I could come up with. So I was just about to start filming, and this guy came for a walk by. How wild is that?
Now with all the boxes built, I needed to spend some time in the trailer getting it ready to insulate. First thing I needed to do was take out all the panels from inside the trailer.
All right, so I got all the panels out of there. Now it's time to insulate. Panels pretty easily to come out, but the insulation was a bit tricky in places because I had to get behind some of the studs, and all the stud spacing isn't exactly the same. But this is gonna really help keep us warm. I'm gonna do all 4 walls, including the drop-down gate and the roof, and I'm gonna insulate the floor from below. It should be really easy to heat and remain nice and toasty for me and the family while we decide to camp in here on our ski days. Oh yeah. So I'm just about done with the insulation on the inside. I was about to put the panels up, but then I remembered the ribs actually act as a thermal bridge from outside to inside. In fact, in my previous build, I noticed that these ones up here, they started to frost up. And so what I've come up with is actually a bit of a tip from a fellow YouTuber, seal gasket. So I'm just gonna put a little seal gasket up and down here, and it should just act as a bit of a thermal barrier between the outside and the inside and help keep this place a little bit toastier. All right, so I got all the panels back up. I didn't put the strips in yet because the guys who put the strips up in the factory used about 10,001 staples, so I gotta pull all those out before I put them back up. I forgot to put the T-nuts in the floor, which means that I have to get all the boxes. I have to lay them out, put them where I want them to be, and then I have to drill them in place so I can get the T-nuts in. But because the insulation's already there, I have to take it down and re-glue it, or I have to figure out a way to drill through and then maybe seal up those holes. All right, yeah, so yesterday was actually a really productive day. I pre-painted the panels. I thought that actually spraying them was gonna be faster than rolling it on. I didn't get very good coverage, and I used up a lot more paint than I thought, and I ended up by having to back roll it anyway. But I got those panels up on the ceiling, which was, I'm not gonna lie, kind of a pain in the butt, but they're up there. The other thing that I got done yesterday was I cut the opening for the window, which is actually really exciting. I'm happy to have that in there. Because I had to cut one of the studs, there is some wiggle in the side of the trailer, so I have to put a strengthening lintel on there, and I'll do that later today. Basically, the last thing I have to do with the window. I'm not going to frame the window in completely. I don't think it's necessary. The window itself is a frame, and I've only cut out one lintel stud. It'll hold itself in place. So that's what I'm doing. If you're going to put a window in, you do what you feel is best. All right, so I got the side supports up for the bed, and what I used was actually an old bed frame that my neighbor had lying at the side of his house. I fixed a little bit of his siding to sort of make up for what I took from him. Now, to hold the side supports up, what I used was rivet nuts. Rivet nuts are really cool. Basically what they are, they're threaded inserts that are sort of riveted right into the ribs of the trailer. This way I can bolt right into that. Those rivet nuts stay in place. I can bolt them in, bolt them out. This is a really cool tool that a buddy of mine had. He was kind enough to lend it to me. I might be getting one of these myself. And then I needed to drill holes in the specific spot where the rivet nuts are. So to do that, I used a trick where I took a bolt and ground it down to a fine point, lined it up, hit it with a hammer, and then I drilled into that. Now, bed frame steel is extremely high carbon steel. As far as I know, it's really, really hard stuff. You can't just go ahead and just start drilling. You have to go really, really slow, use a lot of oil, and you'll get through. But unfortunately, there was a casualty. My favorite Christmas tree bit the dust. Now, I put the bed frames on the sides so that I can rest the plywood on here to get everything fitted and ready to go. And I was hoping to use the other longer pieces of bed frame as the supports along the bed. But guess what? They're too short. Frig. What my buddy Dirk and I had come up with was it'd be really cool to turn this so that it flips up and turns into a couch, and then flips down and turns into a bed. So the other benefit of that is it'll be a lot easier and lighter to move around, because I'm going to rig up some hinges with some hitch pins, pull those hitch pins out, pull the back off, pull the front off, and that way I'm only lifting half the weight instead of this entire panel, because let me tell you, it's heavy. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to cut the front panel of the front of the bed and separates the garage from the living space. All right, so that lined up pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some T-nuts from the backs of the boxes into this panel just to hold everything in place as sort of a system. The nice thing about T-nuts, similar to the rivet nuts, is that they are embedded into the wood. All the boxes are bolted together with those T-nuts. Also, the boxes that are on the floor are bolted with T-nuts to the floor to keep them from moving around while we're moving the trailer. Now for the countertop, I needed to match this curve along the front of the trailer with the countertop. And so what I did was I made this cardboard template, which I then transferred to a plywood template, which I then used my flush cut trim bit to transfer that plywood template to the piece of plywood that I'm going to use for the countertop. Also with the countertop, I wanted to add this nice sweeping curve on the front of the countertop. And what that does is it not only gets rid of hard edges, but it also gives a little bit more space in the trailer. Now the countertop is two pieces, and to hold the countertop together, what I came up with was to use these draw-tight latches that I found at home hard to find there. For the sink, I just cut this hole out using my jigsaw, and then I rounded over the edge of that hole with my router bit just to get rid of that hard edge. We're really excited about having running water in the trailer, but I needed to come up with a way to make the faucet removable. So using some plumbing parts and this quick connect and actually an old doorknob, I came up with this really cool system. I gotta say, like, of all the things in the trailer, this is probably one of the things that I like the most. Not only is it easy to remove, but it can actually be moved back and forth quite easily, so that when we're using the sink, we can either have it running water into the sink, or we can have it tucked away while we're washing dishes. The base of this doorknob actually worked really well, and the quick connects are actually a really nice feature, and they don't leak at all. One of the other really cool features of this countertop is actually Celia's idea, and I can't believe that I didn't think of it myself, and it's this cutout. The cool thing about this cutout is it is actually the access to our cooler fridge. This is a 12-volt fridge that I got at a secondhand store for like 40 bucks, and it fit perfectly. The other thing I added was this little slot back here, which I use for our chef's knife. So I just cut that with the jigsaw, and when we aren't using our chef's knife, we just drop it right in that slot. We know where it is, and it's not floating around ready to cut somebody. So that's a pretty good start on how I actually built this thing. A couple other things I want to let you know about are things like this mattress. It's actually a king memory foam topper, and it was 3 pieces. I cut one of the pieces off. Right now I think it's about the same size as a double bed. Now these couch cushions here are custom. My mother-in-law very nicely made these for me. She did like a fantastic job. They all fit together perfectly when we turn it into a bed. A couple other things, you can see there's some kind of hardware along the table there. I'm gonna go into more detail about a lot of the things, including, you know, my heater, just a little Chinese heater, and how I managed to get all my electrical in this box. So this entire box nests into all the other box. My battery and everything is in there. There's also something to do with the water, obviously, that goes down here, and I'll go a little bit more in depth on the sink and the faucet as well. But right now this video is getting pretty long, and to be honest, I'm kind of tired of making it, and I just want to get out and start camping in this thing. You know, one other thing I should probably show you is the garage, whatever. In the back here, under the bed, this is where we put our skis, our bikes, all the things that we need when we go away for a weekend. This is awesome. Not to mention, if you have a van, this is all the space that you get. That's it. But we also have the vehicle that we travel this thing in. I love it. I absolutely love it. As you can tell, this build is actually inspired heavily by a lot of the van builds that you might have already seen on YouTube. Now that I've got this done, you might ask, would I rather a van? I don't know. That's something I'm going to think about, and I'll probably talk about in a future video. If you like this video, maybe think about thumbs up and maybe subscribing. If you do, I'll see you in the next video. All right.
As always, thanks for watching, and if there's anything in this video that you'd like to have a little more detail on, please let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in the plans, definitely let me know. I can always make them up and make them available. I'm also looking for suggestions on what I should maybe call this thing. What's your idea?